Hello and welcome to Hidden Existence, and I've got a good show tonight. Sorry, I got a little bit of feedback there. All the way from Louisiana, and I'm actually honoured to have him on tonight. Is Joe Dietz? Dietz, I should have just checked that with you, shouldn't I? Welcome anyway, and a familiar face up there, the Swamp Ape, Carl Gautreaux. Welcome, Carl.
Hey, how y'all doing? Good to see you again.
Doing good,
Good
doing
to
good.
see you, sir.
So you guys obviously from the same place, and Joe, you had an encounter with your friends when you were 12 down the Bunny Island swamp, and Carl resonated with your encounter because of a whistle. That's right? Is it from that encounter?
What really brought us together was when I heard the whistle at Carl's.
That's it, yeah.
So, and in my story, when Dixie told my story, we talked about the whistle in the story being one of the most important components. How these creatures tried to triangulate us into an area by one was whistling over here and one was whistling over here, trying to force us into like an area where they could collect us up. So that's kind of like the most important part of the story. And then that brought us into this whole looking into the whistling, and then how many other people we find that have heard these whistles. You know, there's other people that say, don't ever whistle when you're in the woods because that makes them crazy. I mean, I know everybody in Oklahoma says if you whistle in the woods, you're risking yourself. So, but the whistle was so unique. It kind of was like it was like a 3-part whistle. It was like, you can't hear it really. And then there was an answer whistle. It was like 3 beep, 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 like. And so when it blended together, you heard like this 3-part whistle that came together. And when I heard it at Carl's, it was like, you could tell one whistle was off to the left and one whistle was almost right behind Carl's house. So like they were telling the other ones, we're over here, you can come over here now, is what I took it to be. I take it as that's how they communicate where they are.
Mm. Well, could we go through some of your encounter and what happened to you?
So when I was 12 years old, one of the things when you're a young man in Louisiana is when you're 12, you get your first rifle and you get your first pirogue. So that's my 12th birthday. I got my pirogue, and so we me and my buddies, you know, would go out and, you know, hunt around and do stuff. And then one day we decided we were going to go out to the swamp because we were used to going around our area, but we kept going further out. So we get to Piro's, and plus, you know, it's a big trip. We're taking a whole summer day. You know, we got packed sandwiches. We filled Clorox bottles full of water and froze them so we'd have cold water to drink all day. You know, something that everybody who's ever been to camp in Louisiana knows. You got to do that. So we go to the Honey Island Swamp. Takes us about 2 hours to get there paddling. So it's a hike. And we get there, and we're boys, you know, we're adventurous, and you know, think we're conquering the world, running around with our little single shot 22s, plinking at squirrels. I'm better shot than you, kind of thing. And you know, we had a great day doing this all day long. And then, you know, in Louisiana at about 3:30 every day, a huge thunderstorm comes up. And so when this thunderstorm comes up, the clouds start to get black. We're in this little bitty flat bottom boat, 12 foot long. We got 2 of them, 2 boats, 4 guys. So you got to get out of there. You can't be going through waves or anything. You got to get out of there. So we decided, well, it's time to go. But you know, we had found these 2 carcasses of these 2 gigantic boar. which we always heard that there were big boar in the swamp. And these animals look like something had got on it like in a wrestling move called the Boston Crab and just pulled their necks right back and just snapped their necks. And so we're fussing around in the bone pile, which is right by the blackberry bramble, and we're still plinking at some squirrels every once in a while. And we're looking at the bones, and the storm's coming up, and we're like, okay, time to go. And that's when we start to hear this whistle. And this whistle is coming like from maybe 40 or 50 feet away from us. So we're looking around, and we're like, oh, no. Did anybody see a posted sign? We trespassing on somebody's land? Because we thought it was an old Cajun dude trying to scare us off his land. Because, that's how we do things down there. We don't you don't run out with your rifle when somebody's shooting on your property. You don't run out and say, you do things to get their attention to let them know you're there so you don't accidentally get shot. So we hear this noise, and so we start to hear noise, and then we start to hear whistles come from other areas. And the blackberry bushes start shaking, and we're like, okay, this is kind of getting scared. And we're 12 years old. So you know what we do? We run. We run as fast and as hard as we can to get to our little P-roads and get out of there. And as we're running, you could hear the whistles coming in, and they were coming in from both sides. And they were pushing us, trying to push us into like a channel where they could like close in on us. And we knew we couldn't. We knew we had to go to our P-rows. So when we get close to the P-rows, we jump in the P-rows. We start paddling, and there's a huge splash, and we all turn around as we're paddling, and we see this gigantic head. And this thing is as big as a pumpkin. It's like a grayish green color with I would say dead set eyes, like very dark around the inside of the eyes and the skin, and it was grayish in color, but because of the water reflected off it, it kind of had a green tint, and the hair kind of like was slapped down to it, so I couldn't tell you how long it was, but I knew what I was seeing because everybody knew about the Honey Island Swamp Monster. And I knew this thing was like a human being or some kind of a person because the look that they gave us was such evil malevolence. It looked at us like, if I ever see you around here again, I will get you. You will never get away. Don't you ever come back here again. That's how I took it. I still take it to this day. I've never been back there again because I believe that animal will know what I smell like to this day and come get me, even if it's in its death grip. So we got out of there, and we all were like, we got home, and everybody was like, nobody can talk about this ever. Because, back at that time, there was a lot of stuff going on with Bigfoot and UFOs. And, if you talked about it, you were crazy. So we were little kids. And, of course, I couldn't keep my mouth shut for a whole day and a half. So I said, you guys, I got to tell you what happened last night. And my parents and the next door neighbors, and, they were good old folks. They was drinking their Evan Williams and Coca-Colas and having a good Sunday night. And I said, we saw this thing out on the Honey Island Swamp. And Mr. Jones, the neighbor guy, said, Joey, y'all need to quit chasing the fog machine. Now, what the fog machine is mosquito control. And back then it used to shoot out this huge plume of fog. And it would come 3 times in the summer and the spring and the summer. And everybody in our neighborhood would get on our bikes and chase this DDT stuff getting pushed out. The fog machine's coming. And it had this big orange light on top of it. And the dude's dad was like, he's got all these kids behind him. He's like the Pied Piper of killing mosquitoes. But he's like, that mosquito killer done addled your brain, boy. I'll be seeing some crazy stuff. So I shut up about it. Never told anybody that story again. Last year, and I think Carl was on in May. Were you on Carrie's show? You and Rachel?
I think so.
So I saw Carl's name on Carrie's show. Saw Carl Gautreaux. Now, this is how small the world really is. A woman that was very close to my family, her name was Marion Gautreaux. And her daughter went to school with me. And so I saw the interview. I said, Carl's about my age. I said, hey, do you know Marion Gautreaux's aunt, grandmother, whatever? And he said, no, I don't know anybody. But, there's a lot of people named Gautreaux in Louisiana. But that's kind of what started us talking. So, and then then when I heard the whistle, and then when I saw the picture of the guy we call Big Boy in his backyard, the one we call Big Boy that Andy and I call Big Boy, he is definitely looks just like to a T to what chased us that day. Now, I don't know if there's 2 or 3 or 5 of them that day in the swamp, but I know that the one that scared us and let us see it, although for a brief few seconds, looks exactly like the creature in Carl's backyard.
When you said its hair was to its body, do you mean it had been submerged? Had it submerged its head under?
Yeah, as it came out of the water, it was like,
Right.
It wasn't like, so it wasn't like, like I see some of these other things, but it was like balding kind of thing. He had sparse hair and strings, so, but it wasn't, I know a lot of people think the Honey Island Swamp Monster is some reptilian thing. It wasn't an alligator. It wasn't some 10-foot alligator jumped in the water.
No.
It was a dude. It was a big old dude that was mad as hell with us.
Did you talk to your friends about it afterwards?
We never discussed it ever again. Nobody. I think they all got the same reaction from their parents. But first of all of us lost our guns because you're not really supposed to be 12 years old and go out and take your gun. So, you went shooting without your daddy, huh, boy? Yeah, you know what that means.
Busted.
You'll see that gun next spring, boy. That's it. The gun goes. I mean, you got to get some kind of punishment. So,
Get your mouth shut then.
and then that was kind of almost that was 6th, 7th grade. So I think after that we were all interested in girls or something. Who knows? But
so you never had an interest after that to get into Bigfoot. What?
You have to understand, in 1974, 1975, 1980, there was no Matt Moneymaker or anybody on doing TV. There was no Survivor Man or any of that stuff. All those guys were the same kids like me who had something happen. And we're kind of the basis of why this got formed out like this, is that there's a lot of people like me who had something like this happen in the 70s and who knows that this happens. And so that's why it's become more acceptable, because there's people like me who can say that happened to me when I was a kid.
Oh.
And I think, to this day, it's been involved in my life. So, I did keep it totally encapsulated in me until I told the story to DC, and he told it. And at the end of the story that I wrote out for DC, I told him I had freed myself from the pressures of holding this story for 46 years and not sharing it with anybody, which is a long time to do.
Yeah, definitely. So do you know anybody else who's had encounters at that spot? Is there a few reports from around there?
There are a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people I know who now that I've told what I've seen, they've told me they've seen stuff. There is a fast and hard rule to be out of the Honey Island Swamp by 4 o'clock every day.
Right.
Do not be in the Honey Island Swamp after dark because you may not come out.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking earlier about before we started about folklore and what stories what stories do you remember, Carl, or do you know of growing up maybe, or that was related to there?
Well, before I even get in that, the first thing Joseph brought something home to me that I never really understood is about the same age when I was a kid. My grandfather used to take me out to shoot my little 410, my little shotgun. And he owned a bunch of sugarcane land on the Intracoastal Waterway, and it was surrounded by woods. And when he would take me out shooting, he would always tell me, never whistle in the woods. And I always thought, well, okay, that makes sense because you don't want to scare, if you're trying to shoot a deer or you're trying to shoot a hog or whatever, you don't want to whistle because you'll scare it away. But I never really thought anything of it until, I've heard several people say that, never whistle in the woods. But, getting back to your original question, I mean, we've been hearing about this thing for years. I mean, every kid in South Louisiana knows about the rougarou, and you just grow up with it. We always thought it was a scare tactic. Your grandmother or whatever. Hey, kids, get in the house before the rougarou gets you. And there never really was a description of the rougarou. So if it would have been 5 feet from me, I wouldn't have known what the rougarou looked like because there's never a description. All I heard was like it was kind of like a wild man that lived in the woods. That was the rougarou. So I mean, like we talked about earlier. There's written accounts in New Orleans newspapers from the 1400s about these things, and I think they've been here all along, and I think society is just moving in on them. I mean, that's what's going on. I mean, like here, like I told you before, here, when I moved here 20 years ago, which is not that long ago, you'd go down to the main street and it stopped and there's just a wall of woods.
Right.
Just nothing but woods, as far as you could see. And they cleared all that out, built these beautiful subdivisions, these beautiful homes. But whatever was living in there at the time had to go somewhere. So, and the Honey Island swamp monster, I was telling Joseph about this the other night. I think I actually heard, I was about, I forget how old I was. I was a kid. I was watching one night, late at night, I probably should have been watching it, a documentary on WWL TV in New Orleans. Before I even heard about Bigfoot. Didn't even know what a Bigfoot Sasquatch was.
Yeah, that's before Patterson McKim, all that stuff.
Yes, that was before Patterson. So the Honey Island swamp monster footage may be the original Bigfoot footage. And I was watching this documentary and it scared the hell out of me because, I was a little kid and here's this thing we've only heard about in stories and, been warned about, and somebody's got one on camera. And it was, I think the guy's name is Harlan Ford, who actually had a little hunting camp or lodge or whatever you want to call it out in the Honey Island swamp, and actually got some old 8mm film of it. And that's the first time I ever heard about anything, like this.
That was a pretty good film because, it wasn't
There
was no distortion like with the cell phone cameras and the digital stuff. I mean, when you saw that film, because I saw it recently because I contacted Dana Stubblefield, his granddaughter, and she sent me a link to what they're doing down there. They're still involved. Actually, her husband is Daryl Evans on the Swamp People TV show, where they catch alligators on History or A&E or one of those channels. But he, he's in a different documentary where he talks about, as soon as 4 o'clock comes in the afternoon, you start to hear things. It's like they come out and you start to hear things, and there's yells and screams and hollers and whistles, and not necessarily wood knocks, but something's going on, and they're giving you notice. Okay, you need to start moving along. Pull up your fishing net, do whatever you got to do, because we used to trap nutria up and around there, because nutria used to go for $2 a pelt when they used to sell them for fur coat. So I mean, my whole childhood was spent catching crawfish and shrimping and crabbing, and we caught such good crab in Lake Pontchartrain, we sold it to Baltimore. So the fish man bought it, and they took it to Baltimore, Chesapeake Bay, where supposedly the best crab in the world is, and they was buying it all from Louisiana. Beautiful blue crab.
So have you never been interested in going out looking for them again, Joe? Have you never thought about doing the research?
That thing will kill me.
Okay.
I guarantee you. There's no doubt in my mind.
Me too.
That there is no doubt in my mind. I'm sure that having run into that thing, I've been braver in a lot of other things in life, but I am not brave at all when it comes to that. That thing that's its property. Don't come on its property. If you are on its property, respect it, and don't do anything to bring attention to yourselves. And that's what we did. We may have plunked off a shot at some little kid. We may have even hit one. Who knows? We were kids playing around. We weren't really following good, important fields of fire. Luckily, none of us got shot. We don't know what, we don't know what set it off. And it could have been that's just the magical time. When the storms come, you got to go. And we just didn't know that because we didn't know. Nobody was out telling people, hey, you got to leave. There was no sign out there. 4 o'clock, you got to go. Something's coming to get you. It's a big bad thing.
I can tell you this. Everything in my house, weapon wise, I don't think I have anything big enough to bring what I saw down.
You don't have a 50 caliber?
No, and
sniper rifle? Yeah, well then you don't have nothing.
No, I think it would really take something on that scale, or something like a M16 or something like that, fully automatic to bring. But then you have to worry about the ones you don't see. Yeah, you might kill the one you're shooting at, but what about the ones you don't see?
And
you're out of bullets.
Because believe me when I tell you this, and I find this to be absolutely a truth in life, is that their family will hunt you down forever. I think they're. I have done a ton of research by listening to stories. I've probably listened to more stories than anybody, and you can tell there's some things that people do that are foolish, but I think, like people say, I think there's some nice ones, there's some tough ones. They're like people. To me, they are people.
Do you think gifting is foolish? Do you think gifting is dangerous? Really? Should we be doing it?
Did they bring me a gift?
No.
I need somebody to give me a gift first before I go over and act like, hey, here's a 6-pack of beer, buddy. Let's go. You know?
Well, here's the thing about gifting. If you want to go drive 200 miles in the woods, a forest, swamp, whatever you want to call it, and drop off a bag of apples and then come back to your house, that's fine.
That's perfect. That's okay to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have these things around your property, around your home, no, do not do it, because they're going to see you as a food source. And when you take away the food, then I heard they get very, very agitated and angry. And
because they think you're punishing them.
Yes, you don't. It's like all these people. They go out researchers, and look, I love the researchers to death, but they want to go out and they want to see one. And I always say, just be careful what you wish for, because once you see something, you can't unsee it. So it could have a very, very negative effect on you. I know it has me. I feel lucky and I feel cursed. And I'm sure probably Joseph probably feels the same way, because you've seen something that theoretically doesn't exist. But then again, you have to live with it. You have to live with the nightmares. You have to live with being scared to go in your backyard at night. I mean, so like I tell them, be careful what you wish for.
But you be as much as a target.
Go ahead, Danielle.
I'm saying you kind of be as much as a target going out into the woods, though. I mean, if they expect people to leave food, do they expect that of everybody who comes into the woods? You know, is it a pattern that they think everyone's going to do?
No, I think they're smart enough to know that everybody's different. They're smart enough to know that the guy that has 10 guys with them and they've got a big fire and they're constant and they're vigilant and they have a guard up all night. Somebody's sitting watching their stuff. They're putting it up in trees to keep bears and other animals away from getting it. They know these are professional hunters. We're not going to get anything from them. We need to kind of stay away from them. I think you'll find that the big hunting guides and those guys don't run into a lot of creatures because they're not easy pickings.
Mm-hmm.
But you got some of those 411 stories that maybe, and a lot of those guys are really professional guides and strong woodsmen, and they disappear too. And it's just very hard to say what at the moment of your interaction, what led to that point. Is it just some mysterious accident that happened? Probably a lot of times it is just some luck.
Probably, yeah. People just die, don't they? I mean, heart attack, whatever, and then someone can take you away for food, and that's how it ended. So
look, if you take a deer carcass and you tie it down, stake it down in the woods, and let just the maggots and the small creatures get to it, it's gone in 3 weeks. There's nothing there. I mean, you can find some tufts of hair, but nature does a pretty good job in destroying what is garbage or what is left over. I mean, it's part of the whole ultimate food chain. I mean, there's bugs in the soil that eat up stuff. I mean,
everything to the bone.
Yeah. So, I mean, and when people say, "Oh, how come there's no Bigfoot?" Well, how come there's those giants out of Patagonia and Chile and Peru that the Smithsonian has grabbed those bones up and taken them away? There's so much stuff that we don't know about our world because we can't dig deep enough down. Our planet's like 11,000 miles thick. So let's say if we went down,
good point. We should be
500 feet. I mean, 500 miles to get to where generations were before us. We don't know what's going on down there.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just. I mean, and we know because they do that with the glaciers, right? They go run a pipe down there, and they can tell you what was going on 130,000 years ago, and this is how the water was, and this is how much oxygen was in the air because this is how the ice is. So, what happens if we could really get under all the ice in Antarctica? I mean,
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
so I mean, one of the things about believing in anything is that you aren't closed-minded, but there's also you need some type of physical awareness, and for me, everything about my interaction was totally physical. If there was nothing trying to tell me in my mind, stop, slow down, turn around, wave to us. Nothing ever, did that. I knew we had to run. My friends knew we had to run, but we just thought we had gotten on somebody's property. You know what I'm saying, Carl? You get on somebody's property and
they're trying to run you out or run you off. And that's probably exactly what happened. You got on their territory and
property. Right.
And I always say, if you have a face-to-face encounter like what you had, or Carrie Arnold had, or God bless his soul, Mike Woolley from Louisiana had a pretty scary one too. I mean, that's a serious deal because they will try to run you off by throwing rocks and grunting and just I call docile tactics. If one comes out and actually introduces himself to you and asks you to leave, I mean, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do feel like that. You're in a bad situation.
You in deep doo-doo, as they like to say.
Yes.
So let's play. Let's go back to this whistle. What brought you two together, really? In a
all right, so
connection way.
So I, because his name's Gautreaux, I start following Carl's channel because even though he's no relation to the woman who I knew, he's still a brother from Louisiana. Look, we're coon asses. That's what we are. We are. When you're born in Louisiana, you're a coon ass. That's what you are. Everybody. You can't be a coon ass and not be born there. You can't come from like Alabama and say, well, I've been living here 50 years, because you ain't no coon ass. You have to be born. Am I right?
Yeah.
You got to be born. But so we have a brotherhood of people. I mean, we all love the LSU Tigers. We have things that, make our whole life. We love cooking outside. We love, crawfish boils. We love family together, all that stuff. So it just was like a family feeling. So the whole whistle thing happened, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening, I'm playing, and I said something, then Andy said something, and then I said, I got goosebumps. That is the noise that they made when they were near us in the swamp. And Andy said that he had heard that whistle twice happen to him, where they had chased him out of a certain area fishing. So then we, started following this whole trail of whistling. And then the guy in Missouri started saying there's a whistler. Then Wood Booger Farms, the guy in Kentucky, he started playing a similar whistle. And then some people started saying that they heard owls. And so with that whistle, you can almost, it almost is between a screech owl and a whistle. But you can tell an animal is not making that noise. You can tell in Carl's tape, nothing's making that noise. I mean, I have listened to all kind of bird calls trying to find that noise. Never been able to find it. I mean, there was a time when we thought we were listening to what we thought were squirrels in Carl's backyard. They were, I mean, Carl has a lot of activity at his house. And if you take time and try to break it down and listen for stuff, you find out a lot of interesting things are going on. But the whistle, I mean, when I heard that whistle, I actually had an image of that creature. And I tears, everything came. I mean, it was insane when I heard that whistle.
Triggered it.
Yeah, and then Andy told me the same thing. He's like, "Oh my God." So then we started becoming like the three amigos, and then we had jumped Ruger Rig Gin. So
yeah, he's an honorary coon ass.
Yeah.
Shall we play it?
Sure.
Yeah, play the whistle. Yeah, please.
Right. That was it.
Yeah, it's real low. I could hear, but if they want to listen to it, they can go to my channel. And actually, I did a comparison.
Did you not come over very loud? Sorry about that.
No, there's a group of people who investigate Bigfoot in Missouri, and they have the exact same whistle recorded. And I've heard it actually several times. And and the only way I can explain it is like Joseph was trying to explain it. It has a metallic quality to it. It's not like a bird. It's not like an animal. It almost has like a metallic quality to it. Like it's just very strange. And it's almost like a 4-bore whistle. And to me, it sounds like just from playing musical instruments, it sounds like an EADG, which is musical notes.
Right.
So I don't know any bird or any person for that matter that whistles in musical notes or tones. I mean, that's very strange. I mean,
not that time of night either.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing. Birds do not whistle at night. And this is like at 1:32 in the morning.
Yeah.
Rachel, I've just asked Rachel if she'll send me the link to wherever it is on your YouTube, and I'll try and play it off there.
Okay.
I think it's because it's come through Facebook and it's not playing that.
Yeah, it's probably not.
I'll have a quick look. So, Carl, what's happening with you at the moment? Anything? There's been some stuff, hasn't there?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago when we put up that new fence, and like I always tell you, anytime we change anything, we get some type of reaction. But it seems to have settled down the last week or two. I mean, but we haven't really done anything different. So I mean, and like I said, it could be something crazy. So moving a doghouse 2 or 3 feet over, or just something simple like that. Moving a barbecue pit, and they don't. Well, we're about to trim the trees. People are asking us about trimming the trees, and we're about to do it. So I want to see what's gonna happen with their reaction when we trim those trees. Because last time we did it, we got several rocks thrown at the house, and and somebody asked the other day and said, well, don't you think it could be squirrels dropping nuts out of a tree? Well, first of all, squirrels aren't active at night, and then second of all, these are rocks hitting the house. You can hear them hitting the awning. And I go outside. We don't have any rocks around here. This is not a rocky area. It's swamp. So I go on the backyard and I find these little pieces. It's actually little pieces of cement.
Yeah, it's concrete. Yeah, it's like,
yeah, it's concrete. It's not even a rock. I mean, it's in the only place you find that is down over here by this coulee. So
I was going to say the coulee.
That's
Pipes.
well, and then me and Carrie was talking about this, and I think me and you have talked about this. For them to take a rock or bring a rock from there to bring to my house or somebody else's house to throw it at, that's intent. That's thinking. That's not a dumb animal. You know, I mean, I don't think a bear, I don't think a bird can throw a rock. I don't even think a squirrel. And I don't think a squirrel can leave 17-inch human footprints on the concrete.
No. But, here's something else that you really need to, it's very important to think of. They don't have a pocket to put the rock in, which means they carry that rock in their hand. So then they cut off 25% of their abilities to carry this rock to throw it at the house. I mean, so now start to think of it, use that parameter to think about that. Now you got a situation where you say, so now they're making a true effort, and why?
Right.
So I mean, intent, isn't it?
And I don't think anybody's ever brought this up. If they are throwing, and I think they hunt with them because they're accurate. I don't know if because they've never broken a window, and we have these huge windows. You can see it right here. It goes from the roof almost about that high off the ground. Huge windows all around here. Never broken window. But I think they're either throwing them at the camera, trying to hit the camera, or trying to see if my dogs are going to come out, or if my dogs are out. And I think that's the main purpose. I think a lot of people say, well, they're trying to get you to come out the house because they want to. I don't think they give a damn about us.
They would knock on the window if they wanted you to come out.
Yes. And
I think when they throw, I think they're trying to hit that awning to make a noise. Try to. Yeah,
like a locator to see if feeler to see if somebody's going to come out. And I'm not coming out. I'm going to tell you that now. I'm not coming out.
No, every time you go out and try to talk to them in the cage and they answer, I get worried.
Yes, and that's something weird.
The dogs react differently to when they started, didn't they? At first, they were interested, alerted, but then an interest in them, and then they seem to kind of get used to, and then they seem to go off. It kind of feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of did, but now they're kind of back to normal. I mean, there was a period of time where they would run up to the fence, almost like they were seeing an old friend, or somebody they knew, and I guess we've had these dogs since they were puppies, so maybe they grew up with these creatures. I guess that's the only thing I can call them, or people, and so they're not intimidated by them. And I hear a lot of stories about Sasquatch killing dogs, but I think that's the yappers. And my dogs don't bark unless there's a reason for them to bark. And I've also heard accounts of Bigfoot letting dogs out of kennels in cages and not killing them, and just letting them loose.
Well, that picture of that fawn that Ruger sent you?
Mm-hmm.
He said, couple dogs, couple cats, all ended up missing from the neighborhood. Now all of a sudden the fawn. So I mean, that goes to that whole gifting thing. They took these people's animals and said, okay, here you go. We brought you a deer. We're all even. Even Steven now. Bye, y'all.
Well, the same thing happened here. Remember I was telling you about all the cats the lady had on the corner that I haven't seen a cat, and I can't even tell you when. They might be all gone by now.
I've managed to get this video, so should we have a listen finally to the whistle? Hopefully it'll be a bit louder now.
Yeah.
If I missed it. I'll start back at the beginning. Did you say 1 minute mark, Rachel? Or?
Look, we're all bending in like we can hear better.
Just yeah.
Let's see. Well, I mean, anyway, you can go. What I did was I made a little video of a comparison of the one they heard in Missouri and the one I have recorded at my house. And it's the same whistle. You can go to my channel and you can listen to the original whistle, or you can listen to the comparison. I mean, it's the same.
I might have it here.
And that one's really boosted.
Can you hear that then? Yeah.
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 I'll put a link to that. It's probably much better if people go and
yeah, get it up on their own.
if you've got headphones on and give it a listen. I'll put a link in the chat now. Go and have a listen after the show, obviously. Don't go anywhere right now. So I'm just going to go back up here because someone, Cashew, made a very good point. They probably carry rocks around to hunt with, not you know, for whatever reasons. But yeah, they could be responsible for.
Well, you know,
I don't know.
And if you think about it, they could be throwing it underhand, but I don't think you could be that accurate throwing it underhand. So it'd have to be overhand. And if they're throwing a rock overhand, they have a rotator cuff, and so do we. So that puts them in the human range. If they have a rotator cuff where they can make a overhand, and I think they would really have to be that accurate, like a baseball player.
But you know, when you're bowling or when you're doing all that, you're underhand, aren't you? And you have to be specific. So who knows? Maybe they can. I don't know. Maybe they don't need to go underhand for anything.
Maybe not.
So, anyone got any questions? Put them up in capital letters. I thought we might have been joined by someone else tonight, but it doesn't look like. But I'm holding out. We get a fourth. Someone else on the screen. So, what do you think's going on? Do we think, are these swamp creatures different to the ones that are out in the woods? Do you think do you hear that there's a difference?
Here's my theory on the whole thing. And so when we're kids, they tell us the boogeyman going to get us. And in the South and around the swamps, they call the booger. And some of the Indians in the Southwest call them the Yeti. And I think that we have the swamp ape from Mississippi to probably Arizona, maybe up to Missouri, is the preeminent one of that region. But I'm sure that just like there's 6 or 7 different people in your neighborhood, there's 6 or 7 different variations of every one of them. I mean, we have to look at the history, and we know there's crossover mating been going on since the beginning of time. Neanderthals mated with human sapiens, and we know all this stuff has happened, and where they came to where they are now, we don't know because there's no written history. We take, basically as humans, we take what the Bible writes as history and try to make our decisions. In the Bible, there's a ton of different stories about different creatures, but these are very human-esque people that live on the planet and share it with us. And I think they know that their spot is this, and sometimes They may get an angry one, or that maybe forms a group of angry ones, and they go out and do something wrong or create something. But I think mostly they have a very, very hierarchical society, and I think that those people control, the elders control the junior ones, and unless an elder gets killed off accidentally by somebody, I think they contain their families pretty closely. So that's my theory on it, and I think you have at least 4 or 5 different types.
So, I mean, if they are human, wouldn't they have the same kind of ailments we have, like Alzheimer's or dementia, or something that might skew, or schizophrenia? I mean,
Most
they may.
most of those diseases, Carl, are environmentally brought on.
Mm-hmm.
So because of our environment, I mean, because we live in a house that has electricity running through it, it may cause something to happen to us. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're still living the clean life of living out in the woods. They don't
Right.
have a lot of these environmental changes. They're not getting in their car and driving. They're not sucking up fumes. I mean, I'm not some crazy Greenpeace guy, but I do know that if you're not in that environment, there's so many things that the environment creates that are bad for humans that may not be affecting them.
Right.
I would base it almost totally on that. Plus, they're still eating. They're eating a different food source than us. We're eating a food source that's full of sugar and poisons, and I mean,
Rubbish.
look,
Mass-produced processed food, and all that goes with it.
Let me tell you something real quick. In 1989, a company decided that they were no longer going to use dairy cattle to make glue, and they were going to grind it up into hamburgers. And that company was called Jack in the Box. And you know what they did? They introduced E. coli food poisoning to the world because they wanted to take a 9-year-old dairy cow that quit producing milk, and instead of getting $100 for the glue from the glue factory, they wanted to get $125 from the meat plant. So when you do stuff like that as people, you don't. We're not following what we know historically that our ancients told us is how we're supposed to do things. We're just doing things that potentially aren't healthy because we think we know better.
Got another question, Paul Holland. Hi, Paul. Are they getting bolder, or are we just getting more nosy?
We moved into their areas.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
If I go back to where I grew up 45 years ago, there might have been 600 houses in a small subdivision deep in the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's sprawl, there's high schools, there's shopping centers, and you can go 10 or 50 miles in every direction, and it's all cement. So urban sprawl has pushed us further and further into their areas. We're abandoning our cities to go further out, and we're look at all these stories about in Colorado, all these cougars and mountain lions being on people's property. In New Jersey, all the bears that are coming out and being found in people's backyards. We are pushing our environment further into their living area.
Yeah, I believe that 100%. I mean, because like I said, I can trace it back to just 20 years ago when we moved here. I mean, you had this subdivision here, and I'm like a rural subdivision. I think people think I live right in the middle of the city, but no, I'm kind of on the outskirts of town in which you guys call a rural subdivision. But
yeah,
I mean, there was no houses around us when we moved here, but now in every direction there's houses. I mean, so yeah, I think you're 100% right. We're moving in on them. And you know what? If they lived here, then they may just consider this their land. and we're encroaching on their land, and they're still taking care of their land. So maybe that's why they get upset if we move something, if we do something they don't like, if we cut down a tree or trim branches. You know, we're doing something on their land.
Right.
I guess that's maybe how they still see it. And if they don't like it, they let us know about it. I mean, just like you would do with your neighbor, you know. I mean,
you have such a unique situation with you. As always, I would always advise you to be doubly careful, safety wise. But you know, they're coming to you, so.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you know, we can't be the only ones. It's just that we know the signs now. Other people don't know the signs. Now we know the signs. We kind of know what's going on. And I didn't know the signs until I found that 17-inch footprint, December 4th, 2018, on my concrete. You know, my backyard. Because, you know, and like I told you before, you can take everything I have and throw it out the window. I still want somebody to explain that to me. How I could have a 17-inch human footprint. And, you know, people, I don't think people realize how important this footprint is, because it's on concrete. You can see where the weight distribution is on this thing's foot. It's almost a perfect footprint. You can tell where the center of the weight is on this creature's foot. And it's like, I can't believe nobody's even picked up on that. Because have you ever seen a Bigfoot footprint on concrete?
No, and
I've never seen one.
That's that whole oil thing that we talked about the other night. About, you know, it's got to be like some kind of oil, and whether that's part of the essence and the smell, you know, because you don't always smell anything,
right? Yeah.
But you know, we talked about the sulfur from the Louisiana pine trees, and sometimes you get that out the swamp, you get that big sulfur gas. You can kind of smell it with that dead weed, kind of sewage kind of smell, you know. But you know, that's natural. But
well, you know, in getting back to the footprint, I think it was done for two reasons. Carrie Arnold always says they wanted you to see that, but after hearing Mark Barton's story, I think there's another reason. But I'm just not ready to go there yet. Give me a little time, and
I'll go there.
I have a story. I really do. I've been holding back. I've been holding back.
I will go there. They are telling you that's their line of demarcation. Don't you dare cross it.
I think it's more than that. I think it's whatever went after Mark. I think that's a signal to whatever went after the Mark. You do not cross this line. This is the line in the sand. You do not cross this line. Because if you ever hear the story, I'll tell you about when I was laying in bed and I heard a crazy metallic whistle and I went outside. And I'm just going to leave it at that for now. So when he came on and told his story, it kind of put a lot of pieces to the puzzle together for me.
Right.
Personally. And I kind of figured out some things. Just like that howling video. You know, I think they have capability. I'm just saying it this way. They have capabilities that we can't even fathom. And I think I have it on video. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, then we will wait until you decide to put that up, brother.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get someone on, and we've just got a technical problem. I'm trying to get someone else on, if we can do it, but we've just got a little technical problem. Sorry about this. There we go. There was another question. Oh, thank you, Linda Taylor. Thank you so much. There was a question about inbreeding when we were on about before, living together. Can they really live together? Would they, how are they breeding? Are they scaring off the young once they get to a certain age, or what? I mean, is there some sort of control over how many they have?
Man, I don't know.
Too many questions.
Just
Well, let's just say, didn't royal families 500 years ago have a lot of inbreeding because they wanted to keep the crown in their families? I mean, I think at some point when you start to see the kind of birth defects and causes like that probably in of the Bigfoot type society, those little babies are probably destroyed right away, and we can't do that anymore.
That is true, Ruger. Absolutely, 100%.
yes.
We know nothing. We do know nothing. Very, very, very little.
Well, I can tell you this. I'll let you in a little piece of the puzzle.
Ooh.
When people say mind speak, people automatically think that you're hearing a voice in your head, and that's not what happens. So they can communicate,
thought, isn't it? Through thought or imagery.
yes,
or
over. I would call it an overwhelming feeling, like something projected. That's. I really don't want to get into it now because it's almost like I have to prepare myself after what I heard Mark say. And, I was like, man, I can't come out and tell these people this. They're going to think I'm absolutely, you got your swear jar, ape shit crazy. Wow. But since he came out and said something, it's going to take me a while, but I had a warning. That's what I'm going to tell you. What happened to him, I had a warning. What happened to him, he says, is not the hairy beast. And he is 100% right. It was not a Sasquatch. It was not a Bigfoot. I'm going to just tell you that now. It was not a Bigfoot. It was not a Sasquatch. And he said he heard run. I think it was a Sasquatch or Bigfoot telling him, get the hell out of here.
I know the interview you're talking about. Yeah, that was quite. And then I remember your response to that was you was warned.
Yes, I feel absolutely 100%. I was warned. I really was.
No one's going to think you're that, but some people want to share it. I mean, this is the thing. These things, what we call crazy things, are happening, and unless we're able to share it, we're never going to know. We're never going to be able to get to the bottom. Not that I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of any of this, other than I think it's good to share, and other people can connect, and then you realise
that is the most important work you're doing, Daniela.
There's
getting people and Carl together.
Yeah, there's other people experiencing it, and we need to show that we can do this.
And this is what we should be doing. We shouldn't be tearing each other apart, ripping each other's evidence, or calling everybody out. And that's I don't want to put money in the swear jar, but that's bull corn. I mean, come on, man. We need to work together. I was talking to Livewire the other day. No, I'm sorry. Well, I did talk to him, but I talked to Corky Marple, and I asked him. I said, do they whoop or do they do that TV whoop? And no, that's TV. Whoop is TV.
Yeah.
Whoop. You can go listen to it. I have it recorded several times. That's TV version.
Yeah,
but the real version.
Anybody that's going out and making noises in the dark, trying to get some 8-foot, 5 can rip pieces with their bare hands. I cannot cotton to that being a wise idea.
Exactly. And what does that mean to them? What does that, or that big long howl? What does that mean to them?
If I was that Bigfoot creature kind of thing, I would be going over and stomping a mud hole in that Bobo Fett and Barack and Money Maker.
Well, and the problem was they probably had too many of them. I'll watch that show a little bit, but that was way before anything ever happened here. But I mean, I think they're smart enough to know the difference between a real call and somebody trying to imitate a call.
Oh, I think they are. They know the difference from the timbre of the voice, the range.
A duck does, unless you get a heck of a duck caller. Because you just grab some plug off the street, give them a duck call. Here, call these ducks. You know what they're going to do? They're going to haul behind somewhere else because they know it's not a real duck.
They're not landing in your pond.
No. So
another good point from Cashew. I agree it's important to make people aware of the possibility of their existence. Wouldn't people try to prepare themselves differently if they felt an encounter in the wild where possible? But there's a double side to this, that would this ruin things for people? And how do you prepare for an encounter?
There is
or a sighting, or is it better not to know?
There is no way to prepare yourself any way at all. I mean, I've listened to people describe what they've seen, and I know what I've seen, and I will guarantee you that there is nothing so scary that looks like it came straight from hell to come and destroy you. And whether it's supposed to look like that so that you're afraid, well, it does a heck of a job, because I'm still afraid 46 years later, and I'm a grown man now.
Yeah,
I promise you that.
That's what I'm saying. Just be careful what you wish for, because it might come true. And then you had that image stuck in your head, like this man is telling you right here, and several other people, and you can't get rid of it. Once you see something, you can't unsee it. So just be careful what you wish for. I mean, seriously, like if you want to go look for these things, and what do most researchers do? They go on the woods, they find tree breaks, they might find a footprint, they might even see one. And what do? They take off running. So what have you learned? Nothing, except you maybe can run fast. And they let you get away because they believe me when I tell you, if they want you, they got you. They just don't want you.
Yeah.
At that particular time.
It's a weird one, isn't it? It's like, we're stuck with these things. I mean, I feel quite safe over here. I don't feel as threatened, or kind of like, I think if I went over there, I'd be looking over my shoulder every time I go out in the woods. But I don't know.
I say treat them like a grizzly bear. If you're out in the woods with your family and you see a grizzly bear, you turn around and you leave. Treat them the same way. I mean, treat them with respect. I mean, hey, look, if you get a picture of one, great. If you don't, you might lose your life trying to get a picture of something. Would you take a picture of a grizzly bear? I mean, seriously, you're out in the woods by yourself and you come across a 8-foot grizzly bear about to eat you. You think that your first thought is to take out your cell phone and take a picture?
That's a great point, Carl, because how come I've never seen any pictures of grizzly bears attacking people?
Yes, you're not gonna. You're not gonna.
I
mean, well, my guest is still trying to get on. There seems to be a technical hitch, and we'll keep going a bit more. Now, Kerry's doing the prize draw in about 10 or 15 minutes.
The big second thing. Well, I'm not involved with that, so I don't care.
Right. Well, if it's anyone out of here, Carl, did you put in? Are you trying to get anything in the prizes, whatever they are?
what?
But there was only
The-
walkie-talkies and cameras
Bigfoot?
and battery pad.
All right. Okay.
I mean,
No, I actually donated to the cause. Kerry called me and said, "Hey, look, he was going to give me the FLIR camera, and told me what he was going to do." And I told him, "No, go ahead, go ahead and do it. We can worry about that later." Me and Joseph's actually working on something, so I mean,
All right. Okay. Right. Was there any more questions? I can't. They're everywhere. Tanya. Yeah. Yeah. They're in the trees, according to some people. So they could literally just be anywhere. They're the kind of accounts that we can't challenge, really, or get any kind of evidence on. It's a hard one to swallow, isn't it? Not the woo side totally, because there's a lot of things that kind of sit on the fringe of it, and then there's stuff that kind of goes over well to the other end.
well, they're not in the middle of Dallas, and they're not in the middle of Washington, D.C. They're not everywhere, but where you have maybe 50 or 60 acres of heavy wooded area, there's a potential for something to be there. I mean,
well, I've said many times, if you do go in the woods 200 miles, you probably walk past 95% of them.
Yeah,
because it seems like they want to be right there by us, watching us. Easy food sources, not us, but I mean dumpsters, deer. How many people on here have deer in their neighborhood? I mean,
a lot.
Come on, yes. I mean,
a lot.
So,
got a question here from Betty Ollie. Sorry, Carl. Are the dogs able to go outside in the house these days?
Yeah, they stay outside all day. We pick them up every night, and but Tori's back to when I go outside, to let him in. The first thing she does is she's at that door and she makes a beeline for that fence, barking. She starts at that big tree and makes a circle all the way around my yard, barking, almost like she's, like I said, she's protecting us or looking out for us or looking for something,
Are telling those guys, hey, I'm watching you.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
Are they smelling when they come out? Are they sniffing in any areas?
Yes, very much so. They, between that tree over there on the right of that shed and that big tree towards behind the apartment, they stay in that area and they sniff that ground all the time. I mean, when we put that new fence, I think I told you this, the guy said the only posts that were loose were behind that shed and behind the big tree. The rest of the fence was fine. But those, and you're talking about some 4x6s cemented in the ground 3 feet, and they were all loose. So I don't know if that means anything or anything. I mean, why would they be loose?
Thing leaning against it every night. That's what.
Yes, I think so.
Just remember when the middle fence, the steel fence, got pushed down.
Oh yeah,
like somebody it had put his hand down it, hurdled the fence.
Yeah, that.
Mitch Jones is talking here about ley lines. Are there any ley lines? Have you looked into that where you live?
Well, I told the story many times. I mean, where we actually live was an old plantation, and I think starting in the 1400s, and we actually live on top of an earthquake fault. Old earthquake fault. Now we don't have earthquakes in Louisiana because the ground's too soft. But where I live, it's actually on a ridge. We call it a ridge, but it's a damn earthquake fault. I guess it just makes some people feel better saying ridge. But down at if you go outside in the street, look down, my subdivision goes down like this. We're 20 feet higher than the front of the subdivision. So that is a natural pathway or walkway. I mean, for a ridge is always higher. An animal is going to take the higher ground to get around, especially a predator. That's where the predators are going to be, up on the higher ground.
Right. They're gonna gravitate so they can look. And I think that's why they come to your place because you're at that elevation where they can like look and see what's in this area, and
Mm. It's very interesting. Sorry about that. We're trying to get Andy gone fishing on, but he tried about 5 or 6 times and couldn't get his mic. And
you know what? I'll tell you. I don't know what his browser is, but I had Safari the first time I tried to join in. I had to change to Google Chrome, change my browser to Google Chrome, and then after that I had no problem. And now I can get it on Safari or Google Chrome. I think Safari's doing something to block.
It does suggest Chrome initially. It's probably the best browser to use if you can. So don't know. It's a shame. Maybe we can try it again sometime. So, well, look, it has been interesting. There's more to cover, obviously. We should do this again because we didn't even get into the food. We didn't even get into talking about food. It's a little bit late. But you're a chef, are you not, Joe? Joe, chef?
Yeah.
What are you cooking? What's your signature dish?
I do everything. I am classically French trained.
Wow.
I've cooked all over the country. I've cooked for 4 presidents. I mean,
wow.
I'll tell you a real quick story. When I came to Detroit, I came to a place called the Hotel Pontchartrain. And I grew up fishing on Lake Pontchartrain as a kid. And Detroit and New Orleans are sister cities. Detroit was founded by Iberville, Bienville, and Cadillac, same as New Orleans. So the original fort in Detroit is where the Hotel Pontchartrain was built. And so, like when I was 29, I was the chef there. So kind of weird thing, But yep.
Nice. Well, next time you're on, we'll talk about recipes. And
if you want to talk about Danielle, I'm always available.
That's great. Thank you again, Joe, for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate getting some information out to people and maybe learning some things for me to understand better.
Yeah.
And it gives you an outlet. I mean, so you don't think you're crazy, or you don't think because people are going to suggest, and I keep saying, until everybody sees one, then everybody will know. When you see one, you will know, because people will tell you, oh, you saw this, and you're going to say, no, I know what the hell I saw. And it does help to talk about it. I mean, it helps to talk about with other people who had experiences. I mean, it's just like anything else.
Yeah. And you're right. It's just an outlet, and sometimes it doesn't have to be a massive discussion. Sometimes it's just an easy chat about things, just to mull things over, and
we keep coming here for a reason, and even if we just get a little glimpse of something every other time, if we can just take a little bit of something out of everything we hear and use it for ourselves,
that's something.
That's an excellent use of time.
Definitely. And I'm guaranteed someone in the chat or watching will connect with this.
Well,
and that'll be important for them.
Everybody has a story who has this kind of activity or seen one, and it all makes one big gumbo. I'm gonna say, since Joe is, your story and my story might have a lot things in common, but then again, it might be different, because I think they do certain different things in certain places, and that may be because of what they had to deal with, the terrain. Just it's the same thing but different,
right?
If that makes any sense.
Makes total sense.
Yes. So
okay, well, let's call it a night.
It's a night.
It's a night. Have we done an hour? We have, yeah. We've done over an hour, yeah. Sorry, it's a long night for me.
I'm not sure.
It's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. It's been fun. Thank you, Carl and Joe. I'll be back on Sunday night with Anything Goes with Jason and with Jay Birch, and we will be talking about food because Jay cooks some amazing food. So I hope some of you will join me then. And so until then, good night, everyone.